Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a really fascinating journey into the world of computer systems security. Now, don't worry, we aren't just going to sit here and read through dry academic definitions. Oh no. We are going to take these highly structured concepts and translate them into something a bit more fun, kind of like an epic castle defense narrative. Think of your computer system, or, your company's network, as a modern-day digital fortress. Our goal today is to understand exactly how that fortress is built, who is trying to break in, and the absolutely ingenious ways we set traps to catch them. So let's kick things off with a slightly weird question. What on earth does a guard dog have in common with your company's email server? I know, it sounds like a joke setup, but the answer is incredibly revealing. As you'll see today, the physical security methods humans have relied on for literally centuries map almost perfectly onto the high-tech, invisible defenses that are protecting our modern digital systems. The core principles really haven't changed. It's only the battleground that's different. All right, let's lay down some quick ground rules with a formal definition. Computer security is all about protecting the data in a system against unauthorized disclosure, modification, or destruction. It's also about protecting the computer system itself against unauthorized use or a denial of service. And here's the really vital part to remember, security is always this delicate compromise. Strict safety controls inherently slow down user productivity, so you always have to find that sweet spot, a satisfactory balance between locking everything down to be safe and actually letting people do their jobs. Here is our game plan for today's explainer. 1. Defining computer security. 2. Building walls with security controls. 3. The rogues gallery. 4. The guard dogs, looking at intrusion detection systems. And finally, 5. Catching the intruders. Okay, let's dive right into part 1, defining computer security. To build our foundation, we're pulling some fantastic insights straight out of academia. Specifically, we're looking at a module on computer system security from Jomo Kenya University of Agriculture and Technology. This material gives us a wonderfully rigorous framework to understand how organizations formally think about and categorize digital safety. Moving right along to section 2, building walls, also known as security controls. So when we're defending our fortress, we have to build physical, technical, and administrative walls. But what's really interesting is how they're classified by when they actually act. It's literally the difference between stopping a fire before it even sparks versus spotting a fire that's already blazing. Preventative controls attempt to avoid the unwanted events entirely. But remember that sweet spot we talked about? These are the controls that inhibit the free use of resources, meaning they only work if users are willing to tolerate them. On the flip side, detective controls step in after the fact. They try to identify unwanted events after they've already occurred, using things like audit trails, intrusion detection, and checksums. Now, preventing and detecting are huge, but they aren't the only tools in our toolkit. We actually have 3 special cases that supplement our main defenses. First up, deterrent controls. These discourage people from intentionally breaking the rules through constraints or the threat of consequences. The fear of severe punishment. Then we have corrective controls, which actually fix the situation in real time, like your antivirus software eradicating a virus that managed to slip through the cracks. Finally, recovery controls restore lost resources and help the organization bounce back, like having a solid disaster recovery plan in place. All right, now for the really fun part. Section 3, the rogues gallery. It's time to categorize the specific threats trying to breach those walls we just built. Let's meet the villains. Suspect number 1 in our lineup, the masquerader. This is your classic outsider, someone totally unauthorized to be on the computer. They penetrate the system's access controls specifically to exploit a legitimate user's account. Basically, they're wearing a digital disguise, pretending to be someone they aren't so they can sneak right past the guards. Then we have our second suspect, and honestly, this one is way harder to catch. We call them the misviser. This is a legitimate user, usually an insider. They already have the keys to the castle, but they decide to go rogue. They access data or programs they aren't authorized for, or they just flat out abuse the access they've been given. And finally, the absolute worst-case scenario, the clandestine user. This could be an insider or an outsider, and they are incredibly dangerous. They don't just sneak in, they actively seize supervisory control of the entire system. Why? Well, so they can evade auditing and completely suppress audit collection. They essentially go straight for the security cameras and turn them off so no one even knows they were ever there. But what does this actually look like in the real world? The source material highlights some super damaging, real-world crimes. We're talking about performing remote root compromises, defacing web servers, and copying entire databases of credit card numbers. They might even run packet sniffers on a workstation just to quietly capture usernames and passwords as they float by on the network. And sometimes, the breach isn't even technical at all. It's social engineering, like posing as a big shot company executive, calling up the help desk and just asking them to reset a password. Wild, right? Which brings us to Section 4, the guard dogs, or intrusion detection systems. So how do we actually spot these masqueraders and rogue insiders? I absolutely love this insight from the academic text. It reminds us that intrusion detection systems, or IDS, are not a new concept at all. As the text points out, some of the earliest forms included night watchmen and literal guard dogs. They served two purposes: identifying that something bad was going down and acting as a big, scary deterrent. Today, we've just replaced the physical guard dog with incredibly sophisticated digital tripwires. And just like physical security, digital intrusion detection has both passive and active layers. Think of a passive deterrent like a beware of dog sign or an alarm company window sticker. Just advertising that the alarm system exists acts as a psychological deterrent. Most thieves just don't want to risk it. Active detection, though, is when the glass actually breaks, the burglar alarm starts sounding, or the dashboard light in your car suddenly flashes red. It's the system aggressively reacting to a specific trigger. So the crucial point is, how do we actually trap them? Let's get into Section 5, Catching the Intruders. How do these high-tech digital alarms know when to actually go off? We basically use two massive strategies to trap intruders: anomaly detection and signature detection. Think of anomaly detection as spotting weird behavior. The system learns what your average day looks like, and if your behavior suddenly deviates significantly from that profile, boom, the alarm sounds. Signature detection, on the other hand, relies on recognizing a known digital fingerprint. It uses a set of specific rules to spot patterns of activity that we already know are suspicious. Let's zoom in on anomaly detection for a second, because it is super interesting. How does a computer know what normal is? Well, it defines it by analyzing audit records. It might use threshold detection, which literally just counts the number of times a specific event happens over a set time limit. If that count gets too high, it assumes an intrusion is happening. Or it uses profile-based detection, utilizing metrics like counters and gauges to look at your past behavior. So the system instantly knows if a user is suddenly downloading gigabytes of data at 3 in the morning when they normally just check a few emails at 9 a.m. Which brings us to our final thought for today. Knowing exactly how these profile-based and threshold detection systems work, take a second to think about your own digital footprint. Does your daily digital behavior ever accidentally set off a threshold anomaly in your company's security system? Next time you download a massive file or log in from a weird location on vacation, just remember, the digital guard dogs are always watching, measuring your behavior to keep the fortress safe. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.